Thank you very much to ET Retail for giving ASCP and me this opportunity to moderate this inaugural session. I mean, for a panel session, actually, it's very rare to see such a large gathering. So very happy to see this large gathering for this panel session. Now, our topic today is actually quite broad. Crafting new age supply chain strategies in supply chain that delivers business value. Now, usually that encompasses a lot of things. So almost everything in supply chain, in fact. But I will just go a little more broad on that. But before that, let me just tell you, I represent the Association of Supply Chain Professionals. Association of Supply Chain Professionals is the largest and the first body for supply chain professionals and logistics professionals in India. So we started this kind of supply chain movements way back from 2005. And I'm sure many of you are members here of ASCP, and I'm sure if anybody is interested, can go to our website and check about what we do. We are registered under the Societies Registration Act, and we usually promote supply chain professionals and knowledge dissemination, and also do large gatherings for networking as well. Now, one of the things that in my opinion could be the future for supply chain is basically what we would like to promote is as responsible chain. So supply chain has gradually now gotten into responsible chain. In fact, I remember in one of my last visits to Japan, I think it was in 2019, and I was talking to one of the very renowned supply chain professors there, and I was talking about supply chain in India, the situations, the challenges and kind of opportunities available here. So he said in Japan, they don't call it supply chain anymore. They call it responsible chain. So, and it started way back in the year 2000. And you all know about the 3 Rs. The 3 Rs of the reduce, recycle, and reuse. So these are the principles that they use in supply chain, and they are very socially responsible. So they have changed the term to responsible chain rather than supply chain. They see how responsible, how socially responsible is the supply chain. Now, we talk about environment, social, sustainability and everything. They, in every aspect of their supply chain, they see that. One of their term is, which is called, I just forgot, that's about, one of the term is mottainai, which is like no wastage. That's basically, in every aspect of supply chain, they make sure that there is no wastage. When we talk about environmental supply chain, I mean, I remember in Delhi, we did a program. We were talking about environment sustainability in supply chains. By the way, how many of you have come in your own cars today to this place? Wow, okay. I think Bombay is still better. Delhi, we did this program last month. Almost everyone, except 2 or 3 people, came in their own cars. And we were talking about reducing carbon footprint. So, and the 3 people who did not come in their cars, one, of course, were, one of us, along with one of my colleagues here, who's sitting here, we came, we took an auto rickshaw because our venue was very close to the hotel. And there were 2 Japanese speakers who had come from Japan, and they had come to Delhi for the first time. They were in Barakhamba Road. They took the metro. They found out the route, and they had to come to India Habitat Center. They found out the route. They changed 2 metros, and they came to that conference. Apart from those 2, and everybody had come in their own cars, which is fine, okay. But then actually charity begins at home. So when we have to reduce carbon footprint, we have to talk about those. So I think these are the changes we have to first bring in ourselves. This is the sign of a progressive society. These two gentlemen who had come from Japan, we offered them. We said, okay, we will arrange transport for you. They said, no, we want to, I don't know, they did their homework in Japan itself. They found out the entire route and they came on their own. So I think these are the things that we have to see when we are talking about sustainability. We all know about the 17 SDG goals of UN, which has to be actually met by 2030. And I think these are the areas that the 17 SDG goals have to be very particularly, followed, and supply chains particularly are very important. They have to, adhere to certain criteria of those SDGs to, meet those goals. And I think it's the responsibility of all of us, all the supply chain professionals, the corporates, the governments, to meet those SDG goals by 2030. And I think people are working towards it. One of the things which Charu spoke some time back, the importance of customer delight. I think that's one of the most important elements of the future of supply chain, because it's not about customer satisfaction anymore. That's a thing of the past. It's more about customer delight. There's a term in Japanese called omotonashi, which means anticipating the needs of the customers. And particularly if it is a retail business, anticipating what the customer needs. And today's customers are pretty much aware of things happening around the world. So we have to be globally competitive. Quad is there, IPEF there, EF is there. The geopolitical situations are changing. In this new world order, if we have to compete globally, if we have to have our supply chain as world-class, we need to have these global standards. And one of the main things is to be very, very customer-focused, and keeping in mind the customer delight factor, anticipating what the customer needs. So with this, of course, we'll talk more about all these things. But before that, I would like to introduce our panel speakers today. In fact, I would rather request our panel speakers to introduce themselves, maybe take a few minutes to introduce themselves, and then we can start the panel.
Thank you, Neil. Good morning, everyone. I'm Swaminathan from Aditya Birla Fashion and Retail. I'm a supply chain professional for 3 decades. I started my career in manufacturing in fabrics and apparel, and went on to hold positions in all parts of the supply chain, right from sourcing, distribution, and I was heading a business for a while for export business. And the way I would look at myself is, I proud myself to be a curious person, and I continue to learn right through, and that has been one of my strengths, and I advocate this to all my team members and whomsoever I speak to. And you can, people normally call me absent-minded professor. I'm not a professor, but I'm definitely absent-minded.
Thank you, Swami. Thank you very much. Radha.
My name is Radhakrishnan. I work with the Tata e-commerce for grocery. Started my career a long time ago. If I tell you which year, you'll guess my age. But way back in 92. In 1982 is when I started working. I've been in food and retail all along, but in modern trade since opening the first store in India way back in 1996. It used to be called Food World in Chennai. From there, been in retail all along with Food World, with Spencer's for 10 years, with Reliance Retail. So all my life has been a startup, and don't think all startups are small. Even Reliance was a startup when it started retail. It had no retail stores, it had no SOPs. So really working with the Reliance Retail to set up the systems and open the first few stores way back in 2006. So from there I moved on to work with Kishorji for many years. And one of my very wonderful years working with Mr. Kishore Biani. Learned so much from him. And I used to look after the fruit and vegetable section of Future Group. And looked after a very quaint format called KB's Fair Price. Small size stores with only 300-400 SKUs, but we had about 400-500 stores. Unfortunately, all those stores have gone and things have changed so much. A lot of water has flown under the bridge. After that, I started my own startup way back in 2014. And there is no one who can start a startup without going through the valley of death and been through several valleys of death. I don't know whether I'm still in the valley of death, lost a lot of money, but so much of experience, so much of joy in fighting to stay up. And that, I think, is the biggest gain you have in life. That, I always admire Olympic runners. I can't believe there is any Olympic medalist who sleeps till 8 o'clock in the morning. So, and anyone else who's not getting up at 4 can never become an Olympic gold medalist. That's the converse part of the whole story. You have to learn from them, and the startup is very much like that. So then my startup got acquired by Tata, and that's where I am today. It's called Starquik. We do home deliveries for people. We work along with the Star Bazaar stores. And I'm not a supply chain professional as such, but there is no part of me that is not part of supply chain. So very happy to be here, Neil.
Thank you very much, Mr. Radhakrishnan, and thank you very much for this fantastic message also. Very inspiring. Thank you. Dr. Sanjeevv Khanna, please.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sanjeevv Khanna. I represent Patanjali Foods Limited. For last 7 years, I am with Patanjali. Overall, I have about 36 years of corporate experience now. Started off with Honda Cars when they were setting up their operations in India. Then moved to Samsung Electronics, so from automobile to white goods. And then I moved to ITC, Lifestyle Division, again when they were setting up their operations. Then I joined Metro Cash and Carry in Bangalore. And that was the time when the expansion of Metro Cash and Carry in India was happening. Then I joined BigBasket.com and set up their operations in northern region. And thereafter I joined Patanjali, where I am continuing as of now as their Chief Operating Officer based out of Indore. That was about 3 years back when Patanjali had taken over Ruchi Soya Industries Limited, which is no more in existence now. It has been renamed as Patanjali Foods Limited. And all the food business has been merged with this. In addition to this corporate journey, I believe that we should keep learning because life never stops teaching. So I'm quite an avid learner. I have done many life programs and management programs from IIMs, ISB, University of London, Manchester, Canada, Harvard, Oxford, Stanford. Idea was not to keep collecting the degrees and the diplomas and the certificates, but idea was to keep learning because every 3 years, the whole global ecosystem is changing. And unless we keep evolving, keep learning, then I think there is very difficult to survive in this fast changing world. And the third part of my introduction would be that I'm India's first licensed Ikigai coach. Ikigai, some of you must be knowing, is the Japanese life philosophy, which helps in identifying your purpose of life. And you will be surprised to know that over 80% people globally are not able to lead a life of purpose. Whereas the purpose of life is to lead a life of purpose. But almost 80% people globally are not able to lead a life of purpose. And that is causing so much of depression world over that depression is becoming one of the biggest killers. So many people at the young age are getting heart attacks, committing suicides. So all this negativity is because we lose the purpose. And that is what,
I need some help.
So always, anytime there. Actually, I would like each one of us to, promote that. And that is how I have found my Ikigai in Ikigai. I have found my purpose of life in spreading that purpose because that's not optional, that's mandatory. We all have ways and means to optimize our own selves. We invest maybe, 5 crore in buying a bungalow or a flat, but we don't spend 5 lakh rupees in our own learning, in our own growth, in our own selves, which will never ever fail. So it is absolutely recession proof that we have to keep improving, keep learning. So that's about me. Thank you very much. I look forward to keep interacting during the course of the day. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Sanjeev. I think that's very interesting, and we should get an opportunity to listen to you, a full session probably on Ikigai from you. Ikigai. Great. Thank you. Let's now start this panel discussion on crafting new age supply chain strategies. Basically, how the future is looking and what's the future of supply chain, perhaps. And we will focus in India, to India's region now, of course. All the experts are from India. Now, let me start with Mr. Swaminathan. Mr. Swaminathan asked me to call him Swami. So I'm taking the liberty to call you Swami. Yeah. Swami, you are from the apparel business. And so fashion industry is always on the move, an ongoing supply chain challenge, basically. So tell us something about the agility factor in your day-to-day business and how you would differentiate it with maybe resilience. You know, we talk about resilience in supply chain. So these are two different things, but maybe you would like to elaborate. And a bit about your experience. You have been in, like in Aditya Birla Fashion, probably 2-3 decades now, 3 decades now?
Yeah.
So,
you know,
yeah, over to you.
though I have been in the fashion business for nearly 3 decades, I call myself a supply chain professional because the basics are of supply chain knowledge and application. So I always call myself a supply chain professional. Coming to your question, you know, one of the key challenges in the fashion industry, I don't know how many of you know, this is one of the longest in terms of mind-to-market lead time. You know, from the time I decide I will make this suit to the time I deliver it on the stores is anywhere between 8 to 9 months. You know, that is the long lead time in terms of from mind to market. This is one of the bane of this industry, if you ask me. Such a long lead time, coupled with the highly evolving, fluctuating demand, is a sure value destroyer. You know, in terms of you end up with SKUs which don't sell, or you made too little of what sells. You know, this is the challenge of the industry for a long time. So agility, you know, in apparel industry is one of the key dimensions of creating value. I think, Neil, I don't know how you got this, but I think this is one of the key dimensions of creating value. In terms of, you know, we used to, when we started my career, we used to make for a season. You know, we used to say that we will say spring, summer, autumn, winter, we will make for 6 months. And we'll decide 8 months back, what will I make for 6 months? Those 6 months, you know, and for the last month, the lead time used to be, I used to decide what I make almost as far back as 13 to 14 months. And market has dramatically changed by the time the goods hit the store. So one of the things which industry has been changing and, you know, is to evolve to a process of 12 months, 12 calendars in a year. You know, each month is a different calendar. So so that we are able to reduce our mind-to-market time for the business. This is just by shaving off the next 5 months which we used to make. You know, we take a bet 13 months, 12 months back in terms of the when you run a 6-month cycle of forecasting and buying. This 12-month calendar model has really is driving value in terms of so that you are able to respond to the subsequent month in terms of one, you change your proportion of buys, you change the assortment on the basis of what is the latest knowledge available with you. That is something which we have, I think, one of the changes which is happening. The lead agility in apparel industry comes from both within and outside. Within the organization and outside the organization. So the process of identifying what is going to sell has gone through dramatic change. You know, gone are the days where, you know, we do forecast. You know, when a long lead time supply chain is there, you need to forecast. You can't you can't skip that process because it takes 4 months to 5 months to get the goods in. We are lucky we are inside in India. So 3 to 5 months, depending upon the SKU, is the lead time of the products. So we need to forecast. So we have organizations are moving into a 12-month model and are using data in terms of what is selling, and a lot of advantages have come in because of the digital channels. The digital channels leave a footprint in terms of consumer data, the kind of SKUs sell. You have not only the intelligence of your organization, you have the intelligence of rest of the organizations which is selling in the digital world. So the forecasting has become far more scientific, and that is another change which has happened, which is also again reducing the time taken within the organizations to be able to create a range assortment for the season. And continuously, this is something the organizations are focusing on, reducing the lead time within the organizations by integrating teams. Gone are the days when people worked in functional silos. The business teams and the supply chain teams work together to deliver value and deliver agility to the organization. The second part of agility is that the supply chain design is key to deliver speed in the supply chain. We constantly design our range so that we are able to take position in terms of the early part of the supply chain. Take positions in terms of fabric, take position in terms of yarn, so that we are able to cut our lead time as we are able to respond and cut our lead time progressively. This has been another big, it is nothing new, it is no rocket science, but orchestrating it on a continuous basis, month after month, systematically is the challenge which we grapple with in large organizations. And coming to resilience, we all learned our lessons of resilience in COVID. If you ask me, we used to believe demand doesn't fluctuate. We can forecast our broad category demand reasonably accurately. For example, I will sell so much of shirts. I will sell so much of. I may not be able to forecast how many in this design I will sell, but I will definitely be able to forecast reasonably accurately at the category level. But those assumptions have got challenged during the COVID and the post-COVID scenario, and the world is evolving. And this is, we suddenly, COVID struck and our demands of formal category tanked. And the COVID was over, the demand of formal category went through the roof. So these are sudden shocks in demand. Is something which we need to be able to design our supply chain to be able to respond. That is what I call resilience. When these shocks do come, and many a time in industry when you have a long experience, we have a long experience of success, you tend to believe you can forecast reasonably accurately. But these assumptions are getting challenged on a continuous basis even after COVID. There are a lot of, the channels in which we are selling are changing so dramatically. The assortment in these channels are very different. So these kind of changes are continuously happening, and it is extremely important that we think through this challenge and design our supply chain to be able to respond to it quickly. One of the examples I can say is when we do a large proportion of our supply chain is manufactured in our own factories. These factories which were making shirts and suits became factories which made PPE, T-shirts, athleisure. We just shifted our category in which we manufactured so dramatically. And these are the kind of responses which we believe is key to capture the opportunity in the market.
Thank you, Swami. I think I will go. By the way, we'll again come back to the Japanese part. We'll keep up to the time, and we'll of course have a particular format. We started our panel discussions 10 minutes behind schedule. but we have been given 1 hour for our panel, so we'll keep up to the time. So our session is still 11:20. So it's already, yeah. So we have 24 minutes left, so I think we will be able to keep up with the time, and that includes some couple of questions also we might be able to take. But let me quickly go to Mr. Radhakrishnan. You are an ace and guru in the East e-commerce sector. So tell us your views, how do you see the future of supply chain in India?
So as a young boy growing up in Delhi, my father used to work in the government service. People used to tell us, don't work like a babu in the government, right? It used to become like a phrase. Don't work like the government. Today I have to tell the people in my office, जाके पता करो कि क्या सरकार कर क्या रही है, right? Because they are way ahead of the way we are thinking. I was in Jaipur for a Punjabi wedding, and of course we are part of the Bharat. And all the guys who were playing the dhol had a QR code on the dhol. And so I asked the Bharatis, the bride's father, Acha, paise, have you got money? Because anyone who's attended Punjabi wedding knows what it is like. You got to throw money for the guys to play that dhol. So he said, no, I've got 2 of my nephews. They will take care of it. They would scan, they would look at this amount, do the pera on top with the phone, and pay the money. At the end of the whole session, these guys, each one had paid out some 4,000, 5,000, 8,000 bucks on this QR code. Another example, I'm just driving your thought to the way India is changing, right? It's changed like you cannot imagine. I work in Vadala and I stay in Jogeshwari East, and I drive myself. I have to spend 1.5 hours with myself every day, one way. So it was late in the night, so I was very hungry. So every time you see a peanut fellow, then you know there is a traffic jam. So Mufali wala, Singh wala was there, so I flashed my light and this guy walks up on the passenger side and I lower I looked at my purse, I had only 500 rupees. So I said, Bhaiya, dekho, 500 rupees. So I have only 500 bucks, and I raised the glass. So this guy came running to the driver's side, came to my side. And I lowered the glass, and he puts a 10 rupee peanut on the dashboard, and he pulls out a QR code. So I scanned with my GPay, I made the payment, and as soon as I scanned it, this guy's away on the next car. He knows this guy's not going to cheat me for 10 bucks. And I made the 10-buck payment, and this guy was happy, I was happy, I had my peanuts, I reached home. I made a 15-day trip to the US. I couldn't pay $1. $1, right? Even the cow who comes to your home comes with a QR code on its head. So you can pay. You don't have to pay cash. These are all anecdotal stories, but this is what's happening on the ground in India. The way UPI has changed India, it has put all credit cards out of business. Who would ever think, right, that you would not use a credit card in your life? So today, very few people use credit cards. Everybody is on UPI because your user, the guy who's receiving the money, doesn't want to collect cash anymore. E-commerce is changing beyond recognition, right, because of these issues. Even though in e-commerce today, in grocery business, still the amount of cash used is high. It is more than 40%, which is a surprise actually, because if they don't trust you, if they don't trust the supply chain, then they will always opt for COD. Otherwise, they would rather pay online. So it is really a measure. If your business is low on cash, it means they probably trust either the return process or they trust the inward process, one of them. Now, there's a great thing that, in an interview with Jeff Bezos, he asked, tell me a time in the future when the customer will say, I don't want it faster, cheaper, or better. They're never going to say it. It's always going to be faster, always want to be cheaper, always want to be better. So that's where all businesses have to go. But, we also have to imagine that not everything that is cheaper is actually better. We know that the more things seem to change, the more things remain the same. The old adage of kabhi to kabhi paisa banna chahiye, right? all the new startups, I don't know how they're thinking, but really the problem is not only with the startups, it is also a problem with the guys who are giving the money to the startups. We've seen some of the great cryptocurrencies guys, having a holiday in the Bahamas with the cryptocurrency money. But the point also is that there is a certain model, and this is really a three-piece model, which I'll say that anyone who wants to get into a startup must have to check whether the business is working or not working. Doesn't matter whether it's, even if it's astroscience or whether it is just selling tea on the road, these three things must actually work for you. The first thing is there a market fit? And this applies equally to e-commerce. Is there a market fit? Market fit means I have a product, am I solving a problem or not solving a problem? If Ikigai certificate is solving a problem, it's good. Otherwise, it has a problem. So you must have a market fit, that you have to go out to solve a problem, not create a problem and then solve it. मुझे 10 मिनट में डिलीवरी चाहिए तो वो प्रॉब्लम बना के फिर उसको सॉल्व नहीं करने गए हैं. अभी एग्जिस्टिंग प्रॉब्लम है क्या? There are many problems the customers know, and there are many problems customers do not know. Some unrealized problems also you may be solving. The second thing is, you must have unit economics. You got to make money at a unit level. And unit economics is not easy to measure. Different businesses have to measure it differently. Some have the variable cost, some have, direct cost, indirect cost. That's a method of costing. So the first one is market fit. The second one is unit economics, and the third one is UI UX. What's your user experience? What's the service to the customer? Are they happy or are they not happy? So these are three checks that you have to do as far as e-commerce is concerned. There's no point telling you what I'm doing, but really the good takeaway anytime you come to a conference is you must take away some things you can go and apply in your own life. This is probably one of the three things that you want to remember when you're doing a startup. But after you've done a startup, there is another three checklists, which I will tell you in the next round if I have time.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Radhakrishnan. Very interesting points. We'll come back to that once again. Now let's go to Dr. Sanjeevv Khanna. I know Dr. Sanjeevv Khanna, I think, last 2 decades now. And so you have been into, you have worked with several large conglomerates. And would you like to narrate some experience, like, you had experiences doing businesses like B2B and B2C. So would you like to elaborate quickly, your experience, which is better or which is more easier?
Okay. For easier jobs, normally you don't get paid well. So the jobs are always tough, and particularly for the supply chain professionals, I'm sure most of the people sitting here are from the supply chain background or with the interest in supply chain, and which is the backbone for any business. So I'm sure that whether it is wholesale or it is retail, whether B2B or B2C, it's always tough. It has its own set of complexities and challenges. But at the same time, I think as Radha was rightly saying, that it should not happen that we make things, simple things, complicated and then try to simplify it. The same is applicable even for supply chain, whether it is B2B or B2C. If you really see, supply chain in itself is not that complex. We make it complex. If we have an attitude of solving the problem, we are part of the solution, then it is that much easier. So, just to continue my discussion, Radha started with the Punjabi wedding story. And as a Punjabi, when I'm sitting here in last 35 years of my corporate experience, for the first time I'm facing a bar. And in a conference, when you are facing the bar, it becomes very difficult to concentrate on the meeting. So now, second thing is, as he said, I would also like to talk about the three things. And those three things are relevant for the life, for the businesses, and for the supply chains. It is the integration of your purpose, passion, and potential. Now, wherever you look, whether you look in your personal life or professional life, these are the three things. Purpose, so as rightly he said, that it should not happen that there is no need for it. So the first and foremost, most important thing for us is to understand whether there is a requirement, there is a need. So there has to be a purpose. Then there has to be a passion, whether I am the right person for that or someone else is the right person for that. So the passion has to be there to address that problem. And then you have to have the potential. Unless these three things are integrated, there is a miss. Now, whether it is a professional life or personal life, that miss will be there. So we always need to stay focused. And that is what, at the end of the day, will translate into your ikigai, finding your ikigai, that purpose, passion, and potential. So stay focused on that. I think any problem, whether B2B, B2C, supply chain, business, personal life, everything can be addressed. So that's from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Sanjeev. I think we should not. We have just 13 minutes left, and we shouldn't, end the session without talking about the use of technology actually in, in supply chain, and how do we see the future and the use of technology in supply chain as a future. So maybe, Swami, if you would like to elaborate on that, your experience, your thoughts on that.
No, before going to specifics of what technology, there are 3 or 4 changes which has happened in the last decade, which is driving the adoption of technology in supply chain and in organizations in general, and supply chain especially. Because supply chain is closely intertwined with technology now. One is our ability to collect data has dramatically changed. A lot of us used to believe the data collection is expensive, and data collection is and storing and and orchestrating that data collection used to be an expensive, and a mindset used to be that we need not store this data. It has changed dramatically. The second thing which has changed is the ability to analyze data. One of the biggest changes has been in AI/ML, but the biggest drivers of this is AI/ML. But again, ability to analyze data has dramatically changed, and we need to recognize that when we decide what we need to do with technology. Third is our ability to share data. We can share data at a very high speed and create centers of excellence of a certain job, a specific job at scale efficiently. Again, this has changed dramatically. The fourth one which has changed is the opportunity to automate small tasks, many tasks, may not be small, many tasks. Again, that is driving the changes in all industry and in apparel industry as well. Coming to what I believe, I wouldn't say, in one of the technologies which is really going to change in the apparel industry is going to be the AI/ML, if you ask me. Biggest challenge used to be, even now, one of the biggest challenges is to decide what design to make. Which design of garment, style, any design of garment, what to make. How much to make is the biggest challenge at a very top level for apparel and fashion businesses. That is getting transformed with AI/ML, with the computer vision technologies. We are able to identify patterns which humans cannot identify at scale. We can identify large patterns. We get it right, and most of the patterns we can identify. And with experience, we are able to we'll do it a little better. But the the minute patterns, change in patterns in consumption and consumer preferences, we are able to identify much better with this technology. Second, I would say is the one other biggest challenge of the business is to where to. We are a business which we carry millions of SKUs. I feel very. When I listen to supply chain professionals who are lucky enough to manage thousands of SKUs, I feel we grapple with millions of SKUs. So what to distribute where is the biggest challenge of this business. And as Mr. Midrita was alluding to, availability is one of the biggest challenge of retail. And you need to make sure when consumers walk into your store, you have the right assortment available. And that is one of the biggest challenges. Again, AI/ML, I believe, is going to transform that process. Again, the big ones, we already know, we already have processes and systems and processes to be able to do. The finer changes in demand patterns which these technologies will be able to pick up is what is going to add value to the businesses. The other big one I would say is most of the work we do is actually, whether you are senior or, how far in the organization, how higher or lower, it doesn't really matter. Most of the work we do are medians work. For example, I ask my person, how much did you produce, how much did you sell, how much did you keep, how much did you dispatch, how many days it took. I don't think I need to ask it anymore. System will enable me to manage very large teams, because the ability to ask these median questions which I ask, most of the time, you call it median, or I call it median because they are very simple. And I repeat these questions every day. Meaning you can very well, after a while, understand what I'll ask. What is my direction of data collection? What am I trying to do when I manage teams? The ability to manage large teams is going to happen because of algorithmic management. What I call is algorithmic management, because we are going to be supported with data, and data would ask 90% of the questions you would ask. More accurately, more regularly, without at a frequency which you thought you should ask, and which will help us to manage large teams, which can help teams to manage the current data. Sorry,
Right,
maybe I
right.
took a little longer time.
No, that's fine. I think it was very interesting, and AI ML certainly is going to be changing everything. And now there is a new monster also in the block, ChatGPT. So I think that's another upcoming thing which we have to see. But Mr. Radhakrishnan, you were talking about the importance of UI UX, as one of the major things in e-commerce business. So would you like to talk about the open network for digital commerce, just very briefly on that?
So it's a big topic, but possibly after UI, the anecdotes of UI, we'll hear many more anecdotes of ONDC coming forward, which is the open network data of e-commerce. And that's again being driven by the government. And we have to understand, and really it is intriguing when you think about the minds in the government that's making this happen and why they're making it happen. Fundamentally, I believe that ONDC is an attempt. It's open network digital commerce. I can tell you I have polled many people in my office. Less than 20% even know that how it actually works. And I think that's living in a fool's paradise. Everybody in this room and everybody in supply chain should by now have learned, read, or connected with the government to find out how ONDC is going to work. Whether it's successful or not, another question, but I think it is a fantastic thing where anyone in this business can actually sell anything to anyone. You do not require the permission of large horizontal e-commerce companies to tell you what the listing terms are. You can list your product on your terms. So if you're a shopkeeper in Poonam Nagar, Andheri East, and you're selling farzan, which you make at home, and you branded it properly, you can go to the seller side, you can list it. There are several seller side people. Soon there'll be thousands of seller side people who will help you list your product. Once you've listed it, you can choose in which pin codes you want it shown. Your job is done. On the other side, in the buyer side app, if you take any of the apps that are going to be there, if you take Paytm, and if you go there, you press ONDC, and you say, I want to buy farzan. And if you're in the same pin code as that small retailer in Poonam Nagar, on that app, there is no choice. Paytm has to show that SKU to you. This fundamentally, to me, Neil, is breaking the hegemony of large companies. The mindset of India is that we never back large companies. We know what is happening, right? But sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not. But it is about, for me, the biggest takeaway is democratizing power to the people. Democratizing power into the hands of the people to decide where to sell. The large companies and the e-commerce companies in the world are now telling the people of various countries about what you should buy and where you should buy, what price you should buy. It is taking away the authority of the people to decide what they want to buy, when they want to buy, and what price they want to buy. I think the government, when it wants to give it back to the people, that you can decide where you want to buy and tell the seller, you can decide where you want to sell. I think it's going to be the largest and the biggest game changer. Just one more point I must say. I suddenly realized that I'm sounding philosophical, but I'm also in the supply chain. One of the things that I've done in the supply chain that I run is I picked up one single word, which I can challenge anybody running a supply chain in this company. If you take that word and take it back to your organization, if you score high on that, you have one of the best supply chains in the world. Way back in, when I used to work in Food World, the head of P&G's, the CEO came to open the 50th outlet in Kilpauk in Chennai. During the evening presentation of P&G, one of the slides, it said, the P&G's vision for supply chain was seamless, paperless. Now, I think it was from some Harvard management school who had just written it without really knowing what it means. But for me, it made a lot of sense. In my business today that I run in Tata, I do not generate a single piece of paper in the entire business. I run 100% of my business. 100% of my business from beginning to end. Even coconuts we scan. Everything is digitized. The only paper we do is what the invoice that the customer gets in the hand to buy. But I think starting in the next 2-3 months, even that we will stop because everybody has a phone on their hand. We will send the invoice digitally. And therefore, if you do that, and even in several warehouses that I've been, there are baskets and baskets of paper being generated. You spoke about the carbon footprint of e-commerce company. If you just do this, it is not about saving paper. It is about being efficient. Before I did paperless, our picker used to pick 1.2 orders per 1.7 orders per hour because we have big orders. Now they pick 6 orders per hour. The productivity will go up, your process will go up. You have to get extremely efficient in your process if you want to become paperless. We can talk endlessly about it, but that's all the time.
Thank you. I mean, it's fantastic. I'm a big fan of your company, actually, but with this new revelation, actually, I'm more happy to, do business with your company. So it's really great message. And I think everyone here, I mean, I'm sure most of you would know, but let us know more about this ONDC. I think that's, like you said, it's going to be a game changer. Dr. Sanjeev, would you like to describe a bit on, India is a huge country, We usually talk about tier 1 cities, the metro cities. But what about, reaching out our goods to the tier 2, tier 3 cities, or probably the villages, the remotest corners? A bit of your experience on that.
Yeah. I would say that whether, of course, tier 1 network, distribution network is all complete supply chain network, sourcing to distribution. It is very well set, very well organized now. And T2 and T3 and T4 also, I would say that by now, in last 2 decades, with the kind of, GST had been a big game changer. Road infrastructure, the way it has been improving over last decade or so, that has been really helping in development of infrastructure for tier 2, tier 3 cities, and that is where the penetration is becoming that much easier. And another important thing is these tools of AI and BI, which are helping business and creating that visibility as well as the understanding of that market. So certainly those things are helping, and in terms of reaching there, like in the times of pandemic also, we had not stopped, I mean, Patanjali Foods had not stopped their operation anywhere, even for a day. For all these 2 years, complete 365 days, our operations were running. And there are many plants and factories which are in very small towns, and nowhere any disruption was faced except the initial couple of days when even, people, whether the system, the government, the people, they were not knowing exactly how to react to it and how long will it continue. But in addition to AI and BI, I would say we should place equal weightage to EI, the emotional intelligence. Because finally what happens that all the inputs that go into AI or BI are finally connected and having their roots in EI. We were able to continue with the complete distribution across the country. One, of course, because we were in the food, which is an essential commodity. But in addition, it is because we understood and we made our employees understand that how critical it is for us to continue work, because in the times, those difficult times of pandemic, if this also becomes a problem that people don't get food, then how complicated it is going to be. And that happens because of that emotional connect and emotional understanding. I read recently somewhere that 100% employees are people, your 100% customers are people, and your 100% stakeholders are people. So if you don't understand people, you don't understand business. It's as simple as that. Thank you.
Great, fantastic. Great. But I must thank all the speakers today, to give such excellent insights, and yeah, and also like keeping up to the time. Thank you very much.